Welcome back to the IEM Katowice 2019 Grand Finals. The top two players have made it through a grueling round of days, from the round of 76 all the way down to decide who gets $100,000 and an automatic seed into Blizzcon. These players you might have expected to make it this far, but they had a challenging road to get there. First off, the Protoss player in the bottom left. From Team Splice, it's Stats. The runner-up to soO at BlizzCon 2018, the Shield of Fire, a Protoss known for his defensive capabilities but doesn't shy away from timing attacks. Will he be going second best? Or will this time he take home a trophy? In the top right, the man who has lost more GSL finals than anyone else has ever participated in. It's a sad stat. The man who beat soO to get this far, the favorite to win. It's crazy to say, but the favorite to win everything. Not strongly, but making it out of his group. And making it all the way here. Can he finally take home the trophy? Which probably has a whole lot of shipping and all that back to Korea. But from Team Chivu, I think that's how you say it, it's soO. He's always gotten that far. He's always been, well, at least throughout Legacy of the Void, and even before it. Obviously, you don't rack up that many GSL finals without being an accomplished player over time. One of the best Zergs in the world. Unfortunately, if you never quite win anything, it's hard to consider you the very best, whether it be player or Zerg player. And until this tournament, everyone outshined by soO, but soO beat him in a hard-fought 3-2 series earlier on. I believe it was the quarterfinals, ending the foreign hope. Two Koreans back in the finals. Not surprising historical occurrence, but a little bit more surprising in 2019. Before we get into the builds, one more thing. IEM Katowice, not directly inside the WCS system. So not WCS Winter or any of the WCS Circuit events or GSL events. It is a standalone, but it's so prestigious and so large and has so many top players, and of course such a prize pool, that it has been recognized for that. $100,000 for first, and a BlizzCon guaranteed slot, which usually goes to the WCS Circuit and GSL winners. So whoever wins this is in the World Championship, no matter what, on top of a pretty nice paycheck. But Stats starting off, he's got a Twilight Council. He's going back to a little bit of an older style. This is something we saw more towards, well, a year or two ago, relying on the Archon drop. A DT Archon drop. Did soO actually spot it? No, but he saw the Twilight. The fact there's a Stalker already gives away shenanigans are afoot. I don't know if he saw the gas on the low ground. Seeing if there are additional gases early on can be a giveaway for what kind of build, but the Twilight is a little ambiguous in and of itself. It's not so much as the Stargate. The Stargate, the default choice for most players in this matchup, assuming you're not going for like a cannon rush or something. Wasn't 150,000. Apparently, oh yeah, because of the war chest. 150,000 for first. Okay, I guess that's better. Both these players have already won hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I don't think they'll complain. 150,000. Okay, pretty good. Plus, just qualifying for BlizzCon has already guaranteed you more at the end of the year. Lair is on the way. soO, understandably responding. The Lair is mostly just to have detection. I think he's figured this out. The Lings are looking... Does he see it? soO just barely outside of vision. The Archon's coming up immediately. Stat's not going to risk... He knows the Twilight was spotted. He knows the Twilight was spotted. So with that, Stat's not going to try to just warp in DTs and hope that soO is incompetent. Of course, soO knows the possibilities. He's got roaches. Against almost every Twilight opener, roaches are a solid response. The idea here for Stats is to do enough damage and force out enough of a response, he can safely get his third base and also build a unit composition that allows him to put pressure on soO or at least defend. For example, if a bunch of roaches are built, essentially you have to attack with them. You can't just sit back. Roaches do not age well. If there are enough Immortals and Storm and Warp Prisms for counter warpins and all that, you don't just build 200 supply roaches and sit around with it. They're something you build because they're cheap, not because they're cost effective. Immortal's on the way for stats. He's not chronoing them out as of yet. The Archon's still going to work. They've killed off several roaches. 4 so far. And the Observer is comboed in, dealing with the creep tumors. Nice micro from stats, but the reason you don't see the Archon drop as much, the reason that the Stargate is more popular is both defensive and offensive. Having a Stargate early on forces a certain response out of Zerg. It forces either more of an all-in, and it also gives you potentially more scouting info. Another thing the Stargate does is it by default prevents the kind of thing soO's doing right now, which is following up roaches with something like Mutas. There's not any built-in anti-air with what Stats is doing. The roaches are coming across the map. The Archon drop will be recalled back. Stats surprisingly off guard for these roaches, targeting down some sentries and probes, a couple of Immortals on the high ground. There was a Changeling block, a beautiful move from soO. A Changeling block, keeping the Immortals from joining the engagement quite as quickly. The Archon drop is flying back across. He chose not to recall, and that's going to cost him 2 Immortals. Already a major victory for soO. Why didn't he recall? He wasn't taking this threat very seriously. The Changeling block allowed the roaches to do some initial damage. He'll clean them up now. But losing 2 Immortals, those, like, roaches, you can just slam out dozens of them. Immortals, you gotta build one at a time. Even with Chrono Boost, losing 2 Immortals has set stats back significantly. And now soO has the freedom. He can go for a 4th base. He's adding on, I believe he added on additional tech. Well, the Spire, of course. 5 Mutas on the way. And he killed some Sentries and Stalkers. These are gas units that he doesn't really want to replace. There's no basic anti-air built into this build. There's no Stargate for Phoenixes. Blink is not something you want to invest in unless you're sure that it's going to be something like Mutas, and you might be seeing them in a moment. Does soO decide to chase down the Warp Prism? Or does he go instead for the Mineral Line? I would expect the Mineral Line, because obviously Archon's pretty good against Mutas. It looks like it's just going to be enough Mutas to kind of maintain some ambiguity. To keep stats guessing, like, it could be 5 Mutas, or it could be 15 Mutas, and the response to both is very different. 5 Mutas are enough to one-shot probes, that's why it's a basic amount. It appears Stats has caught wind of this. He might have seen the Mutas, or just suspected them, based on the fact that soO, either he should be pressuring right now with more roaches or a ground army, or he's tech switching, keeping the Archon drop at home. A smart precaution, but the thing is, even though these Mutas won't do much, they're not supposed to. soO is trying to keep Stats off balance for another attack. Now, while Stats lost a couple of Immortals earlier, he has built up to 3 or 4. Is there Storm on the way? He has not gotten Storm. So he doesn't really have that insane splash damage potential. Wait, is there Charge? Okay, he has Charge. I'm like, you can't be forgetting Charge in the IEM Finals. A handful of Stalkers enough. soO has decided he's pulling the trigger on an attack. Zergling speed is on the way. Roach Ravager, and this is the worst thing Stats could be doing right now. Out in the middle of the map, without Storm, without much splash damage, against a maxed out Zerg army of low-tech units. This is the only thing that Stats could do that soO would really be happy to engage. A defensive position is required. The force field's pretty good to start them. Those Immortals showing their value. The Archon's chopping up some roaches. Another round of roaches coming in, but soO's supply is dipping. I guess there is no bad engagement for Immortals against roaches, as many Zergs have found in the past. That was best case scenario. soO was maxed out. It was the middle of the map, and Stats just stomps on him. The isolated roaches off the force fields, the Immortals, you got 9 kills, 6 kills, 5 kills, 5. You can count. Blasting through the roaches. soO doesn't have the economy here. He didn't decide to get more drones or tech up. He was planning on blindsiding Stats with this huge Roach Ravager army. But this is the reason you don't often see Roach Ravager, is just Immortals They have their way with roaches, and we don't speak of it because it's inappropriate for audiences here on Twitch. There's still 5 Immortals with the army. Roaches and Ravagers do not counter Immortals. Numbers can change the equation a bit, but they don't. It's a fact of life. It just is. The Archons are in the front. Some Corrosive Biles can make things a little easier, but stats, if the army supplies are even, stats will wipe the floor with soO. The value of his army over double in gas, literally. It's on the dot. The force fields are good. The Corrosive Biles have already been thrown out. A bunch of the roaches isolated and slaughtered. Stats blasting through in game 1 here. soO is underwater in supply, and that is a terrible sign. Even an Observer, helping with the creep. The one benefit that soO has defensively. There's still energy for force field stats. Very careful with managing that energy. And soO, I question the Roach Ravager composition. That is not... It's never been really... There's not even Storm. He doesn't even have Storm. But it doesn't matter. Stats is coming in. The Archons leading the charge. The Immortals backing them up. The force fields make sure the Roaches, Queens, and Ravagers alike obliterated. Some juggling in the back. And Stats dominates in game number 1. A convincing and decisive victory. I kind of question, soO, that was the best it was going to be. Alright, I did not watch these games live, by the way. Of course, they send out the replay pack. This is not live, in case you didn't notice, but I don't know how the maps go. So, it's surprising to me, like, that is... Everybody knows Roaches don't counter Immortals. He sniped Immortals, which gave him the perfect opportunity to build Roaches defensively, but... He's gonna keep building Immortals, so... That's the thing. He's gonna keep building Immortals. That's... I said, repeating my previous point. Let's get back into it. Jimmy, cut it! Thank you. soO top left, stats bottom right. Cyber Forest, game 2. I mean, that is one of those, both players using kind of outdated strategies. Not outdated, but not as popular. The Stargate dominates the meta in Protoss versus Zerg oftentimes nowadays. For Zerg, a response of either Hydra something or a Nidus or something like that. It's very rare when you see someone committing fully to Roach Ravager, even in a scenario where you're up against a quick Archon drop. We'll see, soO. Neither player... Stats is not a player who breaks out the cannon rush often. He doesn't go for the one-base cheeses. He is... Now, I guess... How do I want to describe it? Well, players to learn from. I was trying to come up like mentor players, almost. Both these players are mentor players. They're players you can watch the way they play, their build orders, their strategies, their decision-making, and be like, oh, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. There are players who are not like that so much. Like for Protoss, SOS is an example. For Terran, Maru. For Zerg, maybe Dark, but more like Impact. Players who have their own brand of the way they play, and it's both difficult to understand and to pull off because it's just so different and works at their specific level. But soO and Stats, you watch the way they play, and you can do your best to copy it. Obviously, you're not going to copy it. None of us are, or we'd be in the IEM finals. But they're players to learn from, for sure. And what we learned there, a lesson that I personally and everyone has learned many times, Immortals counter Roaches pretty well. They really counter Roaches. So take that one home. Write it down in your diary or whatever. I'm sure, like, the only person who I know for a guarantee has a journal or diary filled with Starcraft-related things is Artosis, because he always posts on Twitter about it, and it's both cute, nerdy, and hilarious at the same time. He's got like multiple notebooks. It's build order notebook is not a metaphor. It's literally a notebook with build order. Just go check out Artosis' Twitter and his sites and all that. First Adept is coming in, and once again, I wasn't really paying too much attention to Stats' build. Once again, not a Stargate. It's going to be a Robo to kick things off. Just a Robo, which is really interesting. We've seen a bit of a resurgence of Sentry Immortal builds. Early Sentry pressures. Speaking of, there's a Sentry on the way. It's going to be a Warp Prism first, though. So the Robo is spotted. I'm not sure if the timing is going to tell soO anything. He's continuing down the Zergling speed road. I might point out, last game, he either canceled or didn't even start Zergling speed in favor of getting a lair, because he saw the Twilight Council so early that he was responding to that. soO's pulled off gas, so we're the cookie cutter build here. A Forge is on the way. It does look... This is the Ghetto Phoenix to kill Overlords. The Warp Prism makes this look like it could be an Archon drop. He's flying it straight across. He's making no attempt. If you're soO, you're gotta be wondering, I'm sorry, wait, what? Why do you have a Stalker and a Warp Prism and are chasing this? The battle continues. He gets the Overlord. A decisive victory for Stats. A perfect game from him thus far as he continues to work through the creep tumors. But that soO had plenty of time. What is this Stalker I don't know what this is. I like to pride myself on having pretty solid knowledge of builds and Starcraft, but Stalkers are just not one, like, you don't want to build too many Stalkers early unless you're doing some sort of timing. Stalkers just not as effective as Charge Lots or Archons or Immortals in a straight-up fight. They're pretty good for this type of kiting and harass, but right now I'm trying to think, what is this doing that an Archon drop would not do better? And I'm coming up blank. Besides killing that first Overlord, an Archon drop in almost every way would be a more effective strategy, in my opinion. So, yeah, the Zerglings just kind of shut this down. Behind this Stats, I would have thought of a quicker third, but he's just now taking his third, closer to the about 5:30, so not a particularly quick one. soO's at 54 workers. He's already building Hydras. He's going to have a potentially deadly Hydra Ling timing before there's any possibility of Storm. Does he already have a Hydra upgrade? He's not getting a... Wait, is he attacking? Is this an all-out attack? There's not Roach speed. He's building Hydras. If he doesn't start building drones soon, he's going on the attack. And he might be like, wait a second. I think he had a Zergling or something close to the third. He thinks this is a two-base all-in. All right. That's the situation. He hasn't seen a third. And he knows that this Warp Prism, it's almost certainly going to be an Immortal Sentry timing behind it, so he's just spamming units to counter that. He's got plenty of workers and production, decent creep, but it's still, the amount of force fields and the power of Immortals cannot be underestimated. soO, everything he's doing points to either 1, defending an Immortal Sentry attack, or 2, pressuring someone who doesn't have much tech. And right now, the army's coming across. No speed upgrades except for the Zerglings. He spots it out on the open field. A little bit similar to the previous match, but the technical, I guess the technical strength of Stats' army is not where it was in comparison to soO. Look at the supply. 172 to 109. There's a lot of strong units, but not much else here for Stats. He's got Stalkers in the army, which easily die to Rogue Hydra. Speaking of Stalkers, the Cyber Core will go down, denying access to them as well as sentries. soO's just kind of walking in. soO's just kind of he just walks into his base. Charge is done. +2 is done. Stats needs to defend the Nexus. Good force fields thus far. The Ravagers pop out. He can Corrosive Bow to open up a little bit more space. The flank from the back is good, but soO piles in with more Roaches and Hydras. Once again, no speed on any of them. Just sheer brute force. No upgrades. The Zergling's drawing some fire. He juggles back the Archons. Stats, the Shield of Ire must hold this attack. And once again, Immortals. Very good units. it looked like soO was off to a great start. And then enough charge lots came in, the Immortals held the line, and suddenly soO now looking like that was it. We are continually learning over and over that Immortals counter roaches really hard. And we've learned it again. soO, he was up 60-something army supply. I really thought he would do better in that fight, but it was +2 attack done. 60 army supply. Now, he's up by 15, with essentially the same army. He's on creep, he's got roach speed, but stats has been building up. He's still got all his Immortals. I don't think he lost a single Immortal. 1 Archon, 3 Sentries. Those are all the meaningful units that he lost. So right now, soO is going to have to deal with a bigger army with less units. I'm not a math expert, okay? I'm not a math expert, but that probably is worse. According to my statistics. Stats is just holding this position. soO can't, he can't dare to drone out. He's coming in from both angles. There's still, are there any sentries? There are no sentries for Guardian Shield. soO's gonna try to take the fight, but Immortals and Archons, he's holding the line for now. The juggling is good. The Immortals will have to backstop here. The Archons towards the north side of the fight, helping out a lot. Stats holding his ground. soO plummeting in supply. He's down to 100 and then under it. The Immortals live through everything. How appropriate. And Stats blast through. Roaches continuing to not counter those Immortals. I'm not, like, Stats is looking like, I say this with all love, but like a North American Zerg. It's a common strategy of players who feel uncomfortable with playing a more drawn-out game against their opponents. It's a more common strategy to just try to max out on Roach Hydra and go kill them. Ideally, before they have everything together, they might not have perfect force fields or spell casting or storm even done by that point. But Stats is not someone you just walk up and kill. All right, Stats probably the best defensive Protoss in the world. That's why he's in the finals of 2 major, the biggest events in StarCraft. BlizzCon Championships and IEM Katowice. And that's why he's there. So I don't know what soO is thinking by going for that. Stats also kind of breaking out. It felt like his build was... I felt like soO was kind of maybe freaking himself out. He was outthinking himself. Because what Stats was doing was taking a kind of medium time third with a little bit of Warp Prism pressure. But based on soO's reaction, it seemed he was convinced that Stats was going to come charging across the map with like 8 gates and 3 or 4 Immortals and a bunch of sentries. It really felt like that's what soO was responding to. And when that attack did not come, then he's like, well, I guess I got to move out because I have all these units that just aren't very good if they sit here. We'll have to see. We're on Kairos Junction. Stats up 2-0. The Shield of Ire holding strong. His early pressure's doing more than enough, it seems, to set him up in a good position. Ask any Protoss. If you can get 5+ Immortals and your opponent is still building roaches, especially before the roaches even have speed, you're a happy Protoss. You know how that goes. What does he choose this game? A second pylon before second gas for Stats. He might have gotten the gas a little earlier. For some of the games, for just IEM Katowice, I wasn't able to catch many of the games live, partially because of time zones, and partially because I wanted to watch them for the first time with you guys, whether this is live or a replay of a replay. I plan on another series that I hear was very good. soO versus Serral, Zerg versus Zerg. And by here, I mean I watched it. It was incredible. And I'm going to be doing first-person breakdowns, as in watching first-person cameras for those games and seeing exactly how it went down. Another Twilight. Not a single Stargate yet out of stats. I mean, if it ain't broke. It looks like it'll be another DT drop, but there are a lot of options with the Twilight. You could charge a lot all-ins are on the table, though rarely you go for those straight up without maybe building like a Phoenix first or something. The Adept gets in, the Shade. Invulnerable, of course. Getting vision of, is there continued gas mining? How many drones? How many lings are being built? The fact that there's creep spread from one of these queens, and he wasn't mining fully in gas, has already given stats a lot of information. He decides to cancel at the last second. Tries to bait the lings into the main. A Robo's on the way. Does he build the Dark Shrine? It's going to be Dark Shrine, right? He's got the gas. He's not taking... Well, gases 3 and 4 usually aren't taken yet, but... The Adept Shade back. Dark Shrine again. Make sure to keep it out of vision range, even though both players know that soO knows it's probably a Dark Shrine. The fact that he doesn't see it is important. Like, it could still, even though it's probably not, it could still be 7 more gates in charge. It could still be, I don't know, maybe High Templar Archon, or even a blink timing, which is quite rare, but stats has been really favoring the Twilight Council. More gases on the way. For stats, he's already got the Warp Prism in production. 2 more gates should be added on present. Oh, they're right there. Big brain. soO just droning up. He's got the Roach Warren and the Lair on the way. So, Deja Vu. As, once again, we're going up to a Lair. Roaches. Preparing for exactly what it is. An Archon drop. With DTs, or maybe just DTs. He might decide to just go for the base this time. There is a... Yeah, he's warping in very close. Where's that 4th gate? There it is. He's gonna go for it. There is a Spore Crawler. soO must react quickly. Is there an Overseer done? There is not. He may lose the base here. Looks like he's gonna go for the units for now. A bit of miss micro from stats. He doesn't want to lose any of these Dark Templar, but he could have been hitting the base. The Overseer is nearly done. If he had just hit the base... Yeah, I'm very surprised at how indecisive stats was there. He definitely could have killed the base if he had just focused on it from the start, which is a huge win. I guess he expected soO to have an Overseer quicker, and maybe wanted to kill some units, but... That was surprisingly indecisive. Now, the thing is, if you don't kill the base, if you commit to the DTs and don't build an Archon right off the bat, then you've delayed this part of the pressure, the Archon drop, and you've allowed them to, well, they've gotten a lot more space, because they know the Archons aren't hitting for quite a bit. The DTs themselves are dangerous, but... No, this isn't the end of the world for either side. soO has plenty of drones. The question is, well, he's already switching it up. He's getting +1 quite quickly. I believe he has Roach Speed done. He does. Still building Roaches, but also Hydra range. So he's going for more upgraded units. The Adepts will come in for a little scouting. Stats using all his tools. And none of them are particularly vulnerable as long as he's on top of them. This player's not particularly slow. They are the best. Stats not adding on a 4th base yet. Then again, without more than 60 drones, you don't really have the economy to do so reliably and also produce Roach Hydra. The Adept's coming in again. Is he going to let him shade through? He does. He's going to get a pretty nice spot on the Hydra Den. See the Hydra's popping out. Will this trigger Storm? Does he have a Templar Archives? I don't believe he does. He thinks that's a good idea too. He knows this time soO going for a higher economy game, which... I think would have been a better play in the previous matches as well. The Archon drop comes home, doesn't want to risk it dying to Hydras. And there is a danger of just a direct attack. Once again, soO takes a supply lead. But that isn't everything, as we've seen in the previous matches. 4 Immortals done. The difference... Well, not having Storm has worked out just fine so far for Stats. So I was about to say, the difference could be Storm this time. But Stats won the first 2 games, so it wasn't like he was lacking too much. Does he go for Storm? Stats is moving out again. There's Roach Hydra. +1 attack, but charge isn't done yet. Without charge, you can't really jump on the army. By the time charge is done, +1 should be done. Well, it'll be done in a moment. Helping out these Roach Hydra a lot. Because, of course, they're ranged units, so they're all usually firing at the same time. A lot of sentries here, but Stats doesn't quite have the muscle to move up the ramp. He agrees. He's starting Storm +2. This is just trying to keep soO from getting an easy 4th base. Now's the moment. Well, if he can catch the army out of the map, that's a lot of Hydras mixed in. He did not have nearly this many Hydras or upgrades in the last map on Cyber Forest. Nice start to the fight here for Stats. Still a lot of Roach Hydra at the back. Without Storm, the Archons are evaporating. They both die. He didn't juggle any back without any splash damage. The Roach Hydra can easily come up this... Well, the force fields are the only thing stopping him. But you can't afford to lose Immortals. How many Templar have been warped in? 0! Wait, he's getting Storm, but he has no Templar. Losing an Immortal. Stats has bitten off more than he can chew. Corrosive Miles, and suddenly soO has decided, you know what, might as well attack. You have barely any energy left. He can go for the rocks, take these down. Storm is nearly done, but with no Templar to cast it, it doesn't really matter. It's just an investment that will not be paying off. Suddenly soO is maxed out. He's got Hydra range and speed, and there is no splash damage. Force fields work both ways, especially when charge lots are being warped in. soO just muscling through the force fields. There's just no units. Stats is dead. Super dead. If you're gonna go for Storm, you need Templar. I learned that. At least I can do that math. And soO's just gonna kind of run him over. Now this is more what I expected from the first match when there was no Storm at play, but there were no Hydras there. These are upgraded Hydras against no Storm and not even any Archons. GG, soO just slaps Stats across the face, says, I know how to build Hydralists. I kind of surprised. That time. Stats, I guess his luck ran out. His luck ran out. soO realized, you know what? If I actually get some upgrades, these units, they're pretty good. The game's, honestly, so far, we're going into Game 4. Let me make sure we got the right games here. This is the IEM Katowice Grand Finals. Winner gets $150,000. And a seed in the Blizzcon Finals. Alright, we're back. Cut the music, Jimmy. Thank you. We're on King's Cove. soO is currently... Well, that game looked a lot more like... I guess it should have. Maybe the first 2 games, a little nervous. A little stressed out. Like, I'm in a finals again. Am I gonna lose again? But that last game looked a lot more... The reason that the style that Stats was using, and also Stats looked indecisive from the start. Like, the DT warp in, and then not committing to trying to kill the third. What was up with that? And then the army moving out, but also kind of just waffling around and then losing all his splash damage. I'm trying to... I should probably talk out loud as opposed to in my head as I'm thinking about the games. But my original point, the reason why you don't usually see the Twilight Council openers so often is because if the Zerg is prepared for them, they don't end up losing like a third base or a bunch of drones. The Archon drop, while good, doesn't really slow down a Zerg enough and leaves you in an awkward spot where you have to kind of reach for Storm or something like that. Because Roach Hydra straight up, if you don't have Storm or some other splash damage like Disruptors, they max out and they run you over, like that last game. soO kind of gave Stats a present by not going for Hydras in Game 1, and then Game 2, going for unupgraded Roaches and Hydras. But that's more what we're used to seeing. The Stargate just allows you constant scouting, and it forces a certain response early on, which sets you up to put on more pressure with something like an Archon drop. I wouldn't be surprised if we go back to basic stats, breaks out the Stargate again. He's one of the champions of that. And by that I mean, he was one of the first players to popularize it. Pretty much, if stats does something, a lot of Protoss out there at the top level are like, that seems like a good idea. That guy seems to be winning a lot of things. We should do that. But not a Stargate. A Robo. Again. A Stalker coming up. A Robo first. Like on Cyberforce. Oh, I was following the probe. Was it spotted? soO saw it. So he knows. This is soO. Weird. Boo. I like the little probe for vision there. The Stalker. Overlord not particularly ever get needled down by the Stalker. Cannot move incredibly quickly. Did you know? Fun fact. Flying Terran buildings move faster than Overlords without speed. Go search. There's a documentary on it if you search Starcrafts by Carbot Animations. You should check out all their documentaries of important StarCraft facts. The Warp Prism again. I'm a little confused on the Warp Prism, to be honest. It doesn't feel, even though it ended up working out, it just doesn't feel, I say, we're talking about feelings now. It doesn't feel like this sufficiently slows a Zerg down. And in game number 2 on Cyberforce, the reason why soO ended up being in an awkward spot is because it seemed like he was convinced an all-in was coming. And even if it was, he limited his tech to such an extent that he couldn't be cost-effective enough, even with a huge amount of supply. This game, I don't think soO's going to make the same mistake twice. He knows what he did. He's a great macro Zerg. You know, you can make an argument, if he wins this, the best macro Zerg. So, well, depending on how he wins it, if that is the case. So that's why I'm always surprised if he goes for some sort of all-in timing. Lings once again. The Stalkers looking to deny creep tumors. The Queens will reapply them. Important creep spread, very important for vision and for movement, especially early game defending. Very dramatic music. Is the lair done? Can he creep it? Now, nobody cares about whatever's happening over there. The lair, 2 seconds out. Oh, too late. The base is thrown down. The Overlord will not be able to deny it for like 5 seconds. A minor victory for stats. But, now here's the key difference. In Game 2 on Cyberforce, soO did not see the timing of the third. He didn't see it until it was done, so he was working off of bad information. This game, he's already at 58 drones. He's got a Hydra den on the way, +1 ranged attack. He's adding more drones. He's going to go over 60. Looks like he's going to go probably for a 4th base soon, especially if you're looking to do a Hydroling unit composition. No Roaches at all. The Twilight is just now finishing for stats. The Warp Prism is still going around being annoying, but Stalker is not known for killing anything particularly quickly. Templar archives immediately, but soO is, with all this information, taking full advantage. 4th base is on the way. He's got 60 drones going back up to 62. 62, good for solid 3-base saturation. It's usually around the number between 60 and 65. If you're really focused, like 4 bases and lots of mid-game units, like Hydras, Lings, Banes. If he goes up more than 70, he'll probably be intending on going more late game, like getting on a Spire, or a Hive, or even Swarm Hosts. But at this number, that indicates, 1, he wants to defend, and then probably wants to attack. The Hallucinated Phoenix out of stats will scout Baneling speed on the way, which is a pretty big giveaway already. An Overseer is coming in. Just spotting the location of the Warp Prism gives away a ton of information. If the Warp Prism is back in his base, then there is no attack coming this second. soO has a little bit more room to breathe, so we can decide, what else do I want here? He's actually going to add on a few more drones. This is kind of the moment where he has to decide if he pulls the trigger on a big attack or if he's going to attack up. Because right now, he knows that Stats is attacking up. He's putting this Zombie Toss army together. Of course, Zombie Toss is not really the right term for the way Stats controls it. But Immortals, Archons, Charge Lots, some Sentries mixed in for Force Field. But Stats is once again moving out with this kind of early mid-game army. This time, soO, he has a lot of units brought to bear. He doesn't have the supply lead he did in other games, but his supply is significantly more effective. He's got +1 ranged attack, Hydro range, good creep, Baneling speed. He's got 70 drones and 4 hatcheries pumping out units. If Stats sticks around too long without Storm, he's not going to have a great day. Three probes targeted down by a handful of Zerglings. Where's the Templar Archives? There's the Storm. Stats desperately needs it. I'm surprised he didn't just get it right off the bat in these games, but it feels like he's trying to skip past the Storm part, where you just go up and bully a Zerg around, but you don't stop this army without something like Storm. Stats out in the middle of the map. He's going to be spotted, but a bit of a choke point here. Force fields could be very effective. He has no Ravagers. Oh, the Archon! A traitor to the cause! The Archon breaks the force field, allows the Banelings through. The sentries are gone. A disaster in the center of the map for Stats. He loses many key units. Without the force fields, Storm is still some seconds off. More charge lots are coming up, but another round of Banelings for soO. +1 melee is about to complete. 95 to 67 army supply at the moment. He's going to be working into the natural. How many Templar on the field? 4 Templar. Do they have energy for Storm? They do. Once it's done, 7 seconds away. soO's coming in. A lot of Banelings into the third. He has nothing to really block these. The probes must run or be obliterated. But they run from the fire into the flames. There's more Banelings here. Storm is done. A handful of force fields. The charge lots are gone. The Storms might be too late. More Storms coming up. The Banelings are closing the distance. There just always seem to be more. He forces on Archons. soO has closed the distance. Just the Immortals stand, trying to merge in an Archon. But the Hydras, Lings, and Banes overwhelmed Stats' defenses far too quickly. He lost too much in the center of the map and couldn't hold the line. The shield will break, and Stats plummeting in supply. 65 left on the board. 19 probes down, and if he cleans this up, which he might just barely, it doesn't matter. soO's coming with another wave. soO looking more on point in these matches for sure. Absolutely. That's more like it. That's much more like it. Hydroling Bane, especially, I'm not sure, he knows. What I question there is Stats. He knew it was Hydroling Bane. He saw Baneling speed researching. He didn't miss that. Why are you in the middle of the map without Storm? What are you doing? If he had Storm, or if he had like a Warp Prism in the main, I guess, but that was just a little questionable there. Alright, now, it's StarCraft 2 in 2019. If you guys could pause ad block for a moment. Just a quick advertisement. Jimmy is a bit of a stickler about it, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you're enjoying my breakdown. I know the casters did a great job, I'm sure. But this is the most fun for me to watch and also to give my own perspective. I hope you enjoy, and I'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Winter, and I'm here to talk to you all about annoying YouTube things. So, you've all heard about the YouTube algorithm. You've heard about demonetization. You've heard about, well, it depends on how much of a meme lord you are, the adpocalypse. Now, I'm not going to speak on all of these things, but I can tell you, if you smash that like button like it's Stats' own Archon smashing his own force field and causing him to lose most of his sentries, if you ring that bell like soO's Banelings did inside the third. If you comment below and be like, why is Winter criticizing these players who could beat him? And he's definitely not better than, and why does he think he can cast these games? Then, if you use your logic for anything, nobody can cast anything. It'll just be people sitting there. You shouldn't even watch. It's a monolith of skill that you can't even pretend. Anyways, if you want to comment, on how my casting is annoying, but you've made it this far into it, I'm impressed. There definitely wasn't an official cast you could have found, because everybody knows the hardest part of YouTube, besides ringing the bell, liking, and subscribing, which you've already done, is using the search function instead of whatever YouTube force feeds you in your feed and your recommended games. It's far too difficult and complicated. So, thank you. Make sure to like and subscribe and share, and I will get more money. Call today. Thank you guys for sticking around. I know ads are annoying. Let's get back into it. Game 5 of the IEM Katowice finals. Back to the action. We're all tied up. The best of the rest versus the Shield of Ire. Stats ensue. Team Chivo and Team Splice. soO looking much better in these previous two games. The first two games, he looked like every Zerg that complains that Protoss can do any opener and still win. The last two games, he looks like the Zerg that the Protoss players who don't get Storm and then complain about it. Well, those guys. I'm still kind of scratching my head, because even the games that he won, it felt like Stats was doing a less than ideal build. Just either not opening Stargate or delaying Storm. Just in general, feels like you're leaving the Zerg with too many options. And you don't want to have a Zerg with options, because then you can't nearly as easily prepare for them. Once again, now I want to point out the gentleman's agreement, or maybe they just think it's the way to win. No early cheeses or all-ins, no cannon rushes, no proxy hatches, no Ravager rushes. The earliest attack we've seen is either like the Warp Prism Pressure or like a Roach Hydra timing, which already implies lair. So, just the way these players play, I feel like this is the breaking point. If Stats doesn't win this game, if he goes down the same road and he gets crushed again, does he not have anything? I know he can play other styles. So that's what well, we haven't seen what he chooses after the Cyber yet. That will define it. If he doesn't put down a Stargate, if we see another Robo, or even another Twilight, puts down 2 Forges, like, Winter, you're a noob, I'm going to be a little confused and maybe a little disappointed. Moment of truth. Stalker on the way. Stats is banking up the gas. You gonna... It's a Stargate. Alright, back to basics. He agrees. A decently defensive map. And one where you won't really get punished. Most of the time, it's difficult to punish someone who opens Stargate because of the nature of the Stargate. If you're not going to go for an early all-in, the Stargate kind of... What? soO did not quite get to that pervert pillar in time. This is not a high ground area, despite the fact that you might be like, aren't those boxes taller than this little pillar? Get out of here with your silly logic that no one cares about. Only this area is a vision box. Get over. Oracle on the way first, so he's not going... He's already built a Stalker and killed an Overlord. No reason to deny scouting. He's killed the Overlord that would have spotted the 2 gases as well. I think this is actually an adaptation specifically because he got that Overlord kill. Because usually this high ground area is in vision of both a third and these 2 gases. These 2 gases are giving away that he does want to tech up, and it's likely going to be an Archon drop follow-up, or, well, maybe a second Stargate. He's building up the Oracle count, and Overlord is slowly moving in. This is a pretty common tactic of just having Overlord so far away, it's unlikely to be spotted until it moves in later. Rubble on the way, so it will likely be an Archon drop follow-up. But we'll have to see. We've seen a little bit more variety out of Protoss players lately. Twilight Council on the way as well. So these 2 Oracles, they can one-shot drones, they're much more effective against Queens, and they have not been scouted. There should be Spore Crawlers, there are. But usually you don't prepare for 2 Oracles. This is just your basic defense here. 18 Lings on the way. I don't think these are to be aggressive. I think these are defensive. I'm not sure what soO has seen. He has not seen the Stargate, so we'll see how much damage these get done. He's making a Roach Warren as well behind this. I don't know if he'll cancel it. The lair is halfway done. No Spore Crawler in the natural, so he definitely didn't know this was going to be Stargate. If you know he's building multiple Oracles, you don't go without a Spore. He's got plenty of Queens. The Lings to deny the base on the other side of the map. Stats has yet to put a pylon in to wall off his units, and he's going to get caught out for that. Immediately punished. This base is not happening. He doesn't... Did he recall? He recalled the Oracles, but it's too late. Stats a bit sloppy there. Those units need to be tucked in to a choke point in order to give himself time. The Oracles are supposed to keep the base safe. He's supposed to have the option for recall, and then, of course, Oracle's quite good against Zerglings, but he didn't give himself the time. And now soO has been able to deny the third. He's up to 53 drones. He's got a Roach Warren and a Spire on the way, so a pretty classic switch here. He knows the Oracles are stuck playing defensive, so he can build a Spire, and it's unlikely to be scouted. Is also because when you're going Oracles, you usually don't have a sentry for hallucination. Archon drop is the choice. Now, soO shouldn't be surprised at that. He saw a Forge moving up as well, indicating that it's very unlikely Stats is going to all in, but it doesn't remove the possibility of putting on some more pressure. The Queen's caught out a little bit. There should be some Roaches coming up, a handful. Not enough to reliably kill these Archons, but Stat's not going to risk the shields. Zergling's going to try to dart back in, but there's enough Zealots now to save the base. Keep it intact. The thing about these, well, unfortunately for soO, the Spire is scouted. But fortunately for soO, now there's another set of decisions that have to be made. Stats has to decide, are you actually going to make Mutas? Is that something you're going to do? Now that I've scouted your Spire, it's unclear. The Oracles will come in, get a few more kills, but soO is still sitting comfortably at 65. 64. There is no Storm on the way. It looks like Stat's going to make at least a Phoenix or two. What did he just cancel? Maybe a cannon? He's going to get the basic defense. There's a possibility soO just makes no Mutas at all. The existence of the Spire, well, it gives him options for Broodlords later, or Corruptors if he really needs them. And it has to be, like, he can't afford to call a bluff. If it just happens to be 12 Mutas. Oh no. The Lings slip in. Well, that's an interesting situation. But just seeing this much will solidify the knowledge that for soO that, yeah, Stats is defending Mutas. He has to. So, no Mutas built, no Corruptors, Hydras, Lings, and Banes, deja vu. Stats does not have Storm. He's gonna move out now. There's a lot of Roaches on the field. Roaches have been synonymous with defeat for soO in most of these matches. Well, the Kairos Junction game, not so much. Does he have Roach speed? He does. +1 attack just started, though. So, even though there's no Storm, this is still a very strong ground army for Stats. He's pressuring before a 4th base really kicks in, before the lair tech is on the field. A lot of Hydras. If they're caught at the front, though, easy force fields there. There's a single Ravager to break them. Storm begins. Stats has 57 workers on the other side, and he's not building more right now. Has he scouted the base on the left side? He has to know it exists. That's already a giveaway. I like that. Pulling back out of vision after clearing the creep and then splitting off some charge knots. A smart move out of Stats. The Roach Hydra will swing back down towards the 4th. He's expecting this army to show up somewhere, and he finds out where. Stats once again is out on the open field. To start, it looked good, but now it's getting more and more as the upgrades and production kicks in. The Hydra count... Oh, but the whole army is a little out of position here. Stats might be able to move forward. He's not taking the risk. He's just backing off. That might have been an opportunity to move in on the 4th base, which he definitely knows about. He decides not to take it. There are some Templar at the back. Stats playing a little bit safer. More how we're used to seeing him. He's at 165 supply. He's now got the +2 is about to finish. Now, all the upgrades that are important for soO are finishing up. Hydra speed and range are done. Well, about to be done. He just finished the +1. Does he have +1 melee? He does not. Stats, on the other hand, is about to finish +2 attack. He's got Storm, and he's got a lot of Templar. Here comes soO with a huge amount of Banelings. The Templar caught in kind of an awkward spot, but the beautiful force fields. The shields will hold. Incredible casting there from Stats. He did everything he needed to do, and as well, the charge lots with the backstab. The force fields, the sentries are gone now, but those force fields kept him alive to get the storms off. He sends in the charge lock counterattack, and that frees up. This base is gone. A casualty of that engagement. So many Banelings dying, 22 Banelings, most of them not connecting. The storms are gone, though. It's Archons, which are strong, but not as strong as having extra storms. He's crashing Banelings to clear out everything in front and do a little bit of splash damage. The juggling is good. Is there another warp in for Stats? He's really going to need it. He's a little distracted on the side here. He needs these warp ins badly. The juggling back. The shields are stripped away from the Archons, making them very vulnerable. The Immortals trying to hold the line, but soO, his production, looks like it might be just enough. He's going to try to juggle back. What does he choose to save? He can... No, wait, unless he loses the Warp Prism. The Immortals in front. He'll let the Warp Prism go. 19 drones was the cost. But soO... Oh, wait. Oh, I thought that might give him the little boost he needed to kill the Warp Prism. soO holds. But he did not lose the 4th. He did not, but he did lose a lot of drones. The thing is, Stats lost very important pieces of his army too. High Templar, 7 Archons, dozens of charge lots across the board, and there's no counterattack. There's no Warp Prism in the main. There's no charge lots. There's no random DTs or something. Stats now is 4 versus 3 base. Now the economies are fine. He killed a lot of drones, but he doesn't have sentries left. He only has a single Archon. The storms have to be perfect. +1 melee just finished up, making those Banelings even more effective. More stasis wards to try to block out some of the flanks. The storms at the front. The Banelings. Well, Banelings and Templar energy. Loses a couple Templar before merging. Maybe he can bring the Oracles up. Another round of Banelings crashes through. Picks up a single Hydraless. soO batters through the front line. The Banelings continue to trickle forward through the Hydralisks. There's nothing left, and Stats is broken. And that is game number 5. 5. Going straight through. soO holding on. Stats again losing his army out on the field. 3 games in a row going to soO on match point from winning essentially his first major tournament, if not ever, in a long, long time. He's got to hold it together. Well, the next game is on year 0. Stats, like, he has this army. When you win a fight, like he did in the center of the map, Jimmy, cut it. When you win a fight, like Stats did in the middle of the map, wrong way on those scores. Fix them. There you go. I guess on paper, your correct move would be to pressure a base but not commit. Because the one thing he didn't have was his spellcasters. He didn't have the Templar, and he didn't have the sentries. So, In that case, usually you want to back off, maybe tech up to another level of Stargate, like Tempest or Mothership, get a 4th base, but Stats pressed the issue. And soO, well, it cost him his drones, just enough Banelings. It's always an incredibly difficult decision. Do you actually send Banelings into Archons? And almost always it is the wrong choice. The only time it is the right one is if that's all you can do to maintain your critical mass of Hydras. He had to make a decisive call. Do I defend this 4th base, or do I not? Do I fight, or do I back off and regroup? He fought. He brought the drones. He brought the Banelings. He did just enough, and Stats couldn't break through. And that was the spiral began. Because once you lose that complexity in your army, you've spent so much time building up all these pieces, putting it together. I like to compare the Protoss army kind of like building a computer. And you can't just take out the CPU or the RAM or the dedicated RAM or the graphics card or whatever. There are other pieces. The electronic-y bits. Because if you do, something's going to break. If not work at all. So if you get Hydraslings and Banes in your PC, it's usually a bad situation. And now soO is right on the edge of it. If those first 2 games had been the last 2 games, if soO was up 3-0, I mean, if Stats was up like 3-0 or 2-0, and soO just lost those 2 matches that he did at the start of the series, I'd be still very concerned. Even if he was winning 3-2. But those were at the start of the series. The last 3 games have been all soO. I think Stats has been playing similar the whole series. I don't think he's playing worse now. I think soO is playing better. He's kind of calmed down, I guess. Calmed down is the right way to put it. Collected himself. Realized I don't need to all in on barely lair tech. And defended. Picking his fights. It almost looked like he would break. He picked that fight in the middle of the map. And I'm talking about the last game, because every single one of these games, 6 in a row now, no one's put on early pressure. We've got a Robo again, a Stalker on the way, but essentially nothing out of the ordinary or non-standard or cheesy or all-in from any of these games. So plenty of time to talk about the last one. Adept comes in again. Stats? It could be deja vu. Now, he's not up against Cyril. He's up against the man who dealt with Cyril. But he lost Blizzcon 4-2. IEM Katowice, almost as big of a tournament. Or at least it's on that scale. So, it's 3-2. You can't lose. What's your best build? You're on your 0, which is a bit of a different map. It's not a super standard one. You've got the bases in the top corners, meaning you have to expand downwards as time goes on. Can easily become kind of a split map as well. soO, he saw the Robo earlier. He's going to see the Stalker again. A dozen or so links. I think the technical term is befuzzled. I guess it's a combination of amused, confused, and confuzzled, but befuzzled at the Stalker Prism play. It just, to me, I don't know Stats very well. I don't have personal conversations, especially in English, where he explains complicated build orders. But to me, it just seems like it's just worse than the Archon drop. The only benefit... I'm trying to think of, like, what it does. It comes out a little quicker. But otherwise, in almost every way, an Archon drop seems better. So. Stats is following it up. Oh, he's going for it. He's pulling the trigger. On match point for $150,000. He's pulling the trigger on an 8-8 all-in. That is 8, right? Yeah, it's going to be 8. He's not taking a third like he's done. This is where this build order makes sense. This is what soO was looking to deal with on the Cyber Forest game, I believe game 2. A lot of sentries on the way. Stats is doing everything he can to make it look like a third. He's really trying to sell it. soO's already at 50. He's making more drones. He's going to go to 59 drones, which is quite drastic. How much does he know? He's got a lot of creep. Roaches, Lings, Hydras on the way. There's not great vision of whether or not there's a third. Stats is putting it all on the line with this attack. He's really trying not to show much here. Hydra range and Roach speed are nearing completion, and now we know what's happening. He's going to need some Ravagers. He agrees. He doesn't have that many Roaches to make into Ravagers. Stats pops the Guardian Shield. Good force fields, isolating several Hydras to start. Another line of force fields holding the line for now. Not that much range damage out of Stats. He's got a lot of Zealots in front to tank. He's bringing in more. soO has to hold the line. A single Ravager. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 more rounds of force fields. It just depends on how perfect they are. He isolates most of the units from the third. A Corrosive Bile in the midst of everything. He's going to continue moving forward. Stats has his War Prism in a precarious position, but the Queens are not yet targeting it. More force fields, but there's almost nothing but sentries and Immortals left. He needs another Warp in to press through. He's going to use it. The Immortals, their barriers triggered. Their shields are down, but they're okay for now. Stats continues working his way through. There's no more upgrades, just sheer units. Spine Crawlers on the way. soO trying to hold the line. More Roaches, Hydras, Queens at the back. The drones in the front. Everything here. No more sentries. No more force fields. soO's down to 39 workers. Another Warp in at the front. Juggles the Immortals back. Zealots in the front line. He could maybe target down the Prism. This might be the time to do it. He does so. Interrupts the Zealot. The Immortals are stranded. The recall will take too long. He loses everything. And GG! soO wins IEM Katowice 2019. Dominating another attack out of Stats. Stats was a little indecisive, and this time, soO, he knew exactly when to pull the drones. There just wasn't the damage. He didn't have, like, a sentry attack doesn't have the damage there. And, soO will win his first major tournament in I don't know how long, but he'll finish it. Something he has almost never done, if not, I should have looked this up beforehand, but, and then, there's one thing I want to show you guys. This is after his win.
우승하는데 이렇게 오랜 시간이 걸렸는데 지금까지 기다려준 팬분들에게 항상 감사하고 아직 끝이 아니니까 계속 열심히 노력하겠습니다.
He says, it took me so many years, such a long time to become champion, so I just want to give a huge thank you to all the fans who waited for me. And this is not the end of me, so please keep cheering for me. Once again, give it up for your Intel Extreme Masters World Champion, it is soO!
Oh my god, I'm right there with you, Smix. This...
He seems, bored. No. One more shot. You can tell. Everybody. He finally won. And, oh, there's one more thing. One more thing. soO just tweeted this many hours after the tournament. I think something. Rise 8 times. And even if you fall 7 times, Thank you very much. I love you, fans. He wins. He beats... Well, he beat everyone. He beat Cyril. He beat Stats. And many more. And he takes it home. I hope you guys enjoyed my commentary, my breakdown. I wasn't able to watch it live. But, and it wasn't a fluke. He was better than Stats. So, he deserves it. And now he's going to BlizzCon. As well as $150,000. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, 8 times.